So I have here the Laser Master 3 by Ortur. They sent one over to me so that I can play around with it and review it. Let's go ahead and do an unboxing. So this is the Ortur Laser Master 3, the 3rd generation laser engraver, and evidently it's super easy to set up. So let's go ahead and quickly knock this together, that way we can start cutting. I love it when manufacturers do this. Everything is compartmentalized and in its own little pockets in the styrofoam that are cut out. The necessary tools are here. Manual, we will definitely read all of this. And then we have this section down here, everything compartmentalized. Everything packaged neatly. Look at these rails. So lovely. I mean, that they can get a finish, you know, an anodizing this. Awesome. So nice. This is the air assist tube. They did send me an air pump. This is the laser itself. Safety glasses. Cable management, cutting medium, so it looks like there's some thin pieces of supply, power and USB. This is the power supply, and this is very similar to what my CNC runs off of. Looks like we have the belts, that's the Wi-Fi antenna, and then we have the actual cables necessary to run the stepper motors, etc. on the laser. Everything's labeled. Here's another rail. Finish on this gold is pristine. There are no scratches, no dents, no dings. It is perfect. I mean, even in the tiny little crevices, the tiny little areas in between that notch there, no imperfections. So this is the Y-axis motor cable, and I'm just gonna slide it inside this rail. So the slot for it's right in here, and all I'm doing is just scooching it in, ensuring to keep it into the far section on the left there. All right, so you scooch it in, keep scooching until they join, just like this. The Ortur does come with 3 Allen wrenches, so you can get away with just using everything that's in the box. The side for the right Y-axis is actually even easier to assemble, so it's just a matter of lining it up and popping in the little Allen screw. To assemble the X-axis, we just slide it now in between these 2 rails, and it's already rolling on the V-wheels. So to put the front piece on, I started with this side, which is the side without the cable, and tighten that. Starting here with this side allows me to seat the front piece properly. That way, this side's already seated, and that screw goes in perfectly at the hole. This cable sticks out enough to be able to connect to this board in here. So this is the idler assembly, and it just goes into this hook like that. All right, so you're gonna put your belt around that little socket in there. Now you use these tiny little grub screws. Just use the Allen key to tension it. Make sure it's tight. This is the laser module. And it's gold. It's flippin' gold. I 100% did not know that this was going to be gold. Gold's better, right? Nice, very cool. Ortur Air Pump 1.0. Looks like it came with another hose and a nozzle, some zip ties for cable management. On off. Power. This little guy's gonna go in there. So you need to push this blue lip down so that the internal clamping system can get a hold of this tube. And that should be it there. We're gonna put the air assist hose on, so I'm just gonna remove this tiny little thing. I'm gonna push down that black lip. You can get the hose in, and then it'll engage the clamp system internally. So we're guitar builders, and I want to use this machine to essentially support building guitars. And what I thought about doing was doing some complex inlay work that would be either very slow or hard to do on a CNC. So I decided to do these PRS birds because they are kind of highly complex in terms of their shape, and this would be very, very difficult and slow to do on a CNC using very tiny bits. I was surprised that all these bird inlays actually fit on that tiny little card. That's all the space you need for the bird inlays. And it cut these out relatively quickly. Literally in like less than like 4 minutes, this was done. And it was only one pass, so the laser goes around in one pass and cuts these little guys out. And the detail is incredible. All the little tail feathers and the wing feathers. And obviously I need to make the pockets on the laser as well. And the beautiful thing about this is I don't have to worry about an offset, right? So I don't have to worry about the inlay fitting in a pocket. I just use the same shape to cut the inlays out to make the pocket, and they fit in perfectly. This is also one pass, so it's only going one time around, and it creates these perfect pockets. Now, if the wood is charred, clearly the laser is burning the wood, but that's perfectly fine. You can scrape out all those charred bits at the end and blow it out with some compressed air. Look at this. This is a test piece I did for the first bird. So, this goes in there, and he just fits in perfect. I mean, look at that. Look at that inlay. And all I need to do is go as deep as I want, so this is deep enough. Perfect. So the fretboard is complete. This is essentially just 3 layers. The pocket layer for the inlays, the cut layer to cut the actual fretboard out, and then a score layer for the frets. I went through these score layers a couple of times, so they're about 1 mil, maybe even 1.5 deep, but they're just really thin. And it's incredible what this machine can do. You could build an entire PRS Bird fretboard on this machine. This board is incredible. Bird inlays, fret slots, the whole works. You can see it popping it out right now. We'll pop this side out, just needs a little bit of help. This board came out incredible. Entire fretboard on the laser. The bird pockets are just crazy. Crazy. I can't wait to glue in the inlays. And even the tiniest little one, which is the owl, it looks like an owl. Like it literally looks like an owl sitting on a branch, which is nuts. I never thought I'd be able to make one of these. It would take forever to do this on a CNC with a tiny little bit. It would take hours, but this is just remarkable. Really cool. So obviously we're not putting a radius on this. This is a flat fretboard. So we can glue in our inlays and then you can just put in your radius, kind of the old-fashioned way with a radius block. You can see the detail in the tail there. Look how tiny those tail feathers are. Trying to do that with a CNC bit would be really difficult. You could do it, certainly. You just have to go really slow and take your time. Incredible. But you can get that kind of detail with the tips of the wings. There's almost no effort required to push these in. Just with the tips of your fingers, they just go in and they fit like a glove. The kerf of the laser is the only thickness that's required to get these to have a perfect fit. This is rosewood, and it is a very hard exotic hardwood. Yet the laser cut those pockets super easy. Once again, one pass, same settings. The fretboard stock is around 7mm, and the laser had no problem whatsoever cutting the fretboard outline. So I finished the second rosewood board and it came out phenomenal. Made some inlays out of some scrap flamed maple. So all I did was plane that down to about 3mm and then ran the laser again. I got some beautiful flamed maple birds and they look fantastic over the rosewood. They look beautiful and they are absolutely flawless. Press them in with my fingers, no need to hammer them in or anything. A lot with super glue, and then I just hand sand them. I think it's pretty essential to always use magnification to showcase your work. I really want to showcase the level of detail here on these inlays. You can see it looks gorgeous. Probably recommend using a dark wood, because it kind of hides that charred scorch mark. You can sort of barely see it here, but it's a little more pronounced on the paler wood. It's just phenomenal how well these inlays fit inside the pockets. It surprises me still when I look at these shots. My favorite parts are all these little wingtips, like all those tiny little curves. Can you even imagine doing this by hand with like a tiny file or a saw or a scalpel? I don't want to imagine it. We don't have to imagine that anymore. If you're doing wood inlays on a wood fretboard, all you need is a laser. I love that little owl. It's got to be my most favorite bird on the PRS fretboard. Flamed maple is such a cool wood to use. You get all those little color gradients and they shimmer in the light. This is the hummingbird inlay, and even the delicate little beak came out flawlessly. Doing this by hand, you can see how problematic it would be to work on a beak that thin. And we're under heavy magnification right now. This actually probably looks pretty big on screen, but that's a very delicate beak. The Ortur Laser Maser 3 excels at engraving, and I wanted to do something a little bit bigger and think at a larger scale, and really showcase what this laser can do on high-end products. So the product I chose to engrave was a MacBook Pro. This is the 13-inch model. MacBook Pros are anodized aluminum, so that the laser had no problem whatsoever engraving off that anodizing. And it looks superb. And it's so subtle. I wasn't expecting it to be like a pale white underneath that space gray, but it just looks incredible. So this kind of showcases what this laser can do on extremely high-end products. I believe that if you're on YouTube and you're making videos, you have to use magnification. Anything on YouTube from 3 feet away looks good, but it's under a magnification that you get a real understanding of what something actually looks like. And you can see that this tool, this Laser Maser 3, does a superb job. You can see how detailed everything is. Even under magnifications, you can barely see the step over lines. It looks good under magnification, and it looks even better from, 12 inches away. I wanted to test also engraving on the raw aluminum on these Hammond boxes that you basically enclose pedals in, and didn't work, right? So raw aluminum doesn't work very well, but I had bought these pre-painted Hammond enclosures. This one's white and it's a very hard enamel, and this actually engraves pretty nicely. So I tested it on the lid. So this is my Labyrinth logo for my brand Who Wants Honey, and just spoiler alert, I am releasing a line of pedals under my brand Who Wants Honey, and this is a really good test. So I just did it on the lid to give it just a quick test. It works out really cool, so I can't complain. There are just a tiny little bit of burn marks in some of these lines, so I do need to reduce my power or increase my speed. I'm not sure which one, so I'll do a couple more tests on this piece. I'll do a test here and here, just to get and dial in the settings perfectly. But this looks spectacular. So for any guitar builders who also build pedals, that want to have customized Hammond enclosures for their pedals, you can't use the raw aluminum stuff. I actually painted this one flat black to do some more tests, but this is just a raw aluminum one. They won't work. These pre-painted, the professional ones, right? You spend a little bit more buying the pre-painted enclosures, and they take a little bit longer to get to you, but totally worth it. Go for these pre-painted Hammond enclosures, and they work awesome on the laser. So I'm done with all my tests on the laser engraver, and I have to say I think the results pretty much speak for themselves. I highly recommend getting a laser for your shop. They're easy to assemble, they have a small footprint, and you have immediate results like this. I can't recommend enough getting a very nice anodized piece of aluminum to engrave. This engraved so well, it just blew my mind. And there were no fumes or any type of odors, and I think that has to do with the quality of the anodizing from Apple. The enclosure for the pedal came out beautiful, so anybody who wants to design guitar pedals and maybe do some really cool artwork, you definitely want a laser engraver. You have to use the pre-painted pedal enclosures, you can't use the raw aluminum ones. And then obviously wood, a piece of cake to cut. So I was building these inlays out of 3mm scrap wood. This is flamed maple. and it cuts them out perfectly. I'm going to experiment in the future with acrylics. That'll be the next video probably. So just to get you started, if you're interested in a laser, I'm going to be offering the Lightburn files for the Bird Inlay. So if you hop down to the description, you can use one of the affiliate links to pick up one of the lasers and all the accessories, and you'll also find a link to my store where you'll see this file, Lightburn file, for $0, completely free. And everything's set up for you with my settings that I use. So obviously, disclaimer, your settings are going to vary depending on the material you use and depending on whether you have a platform and an air pump. Believe it or not, the air pump and the platform make a huge difference in how the machine cuts. So let's go ahead and close by saying this. I'll recommend 3 things if you're going to be getting a laser. You definitely want an air pump, which is the air assist. You definitely want a platform. You get much better cuts with those 2 accessories. And the third thing that I highly recommend is an enclosure. I don't have an enclosure for the laser engraver, but I think that everybody needs one in order to relocate the smoke and the fumes from that location outside your shop. So that's something I really want to work on. I want to try to get an enclosure just so that I can get maybe a cheap shop vac, some hoses, and relocate all these laser engraving artifacts, which are the smoke and the fumes, outside my shop. Other than that, brilliant machine, a whole heck of a lot of fun. And that's really the other thing, like, guitar building itself is kind of a drag sometimes, especially doing something like this. I don't even want to imagine building inlays like this by hand. And I don't even want to imagine how slow it would be to build these on a CNC. Literally, these came out in a handful of minutes. I want to say less than 4 minutes, but it was probably quicker than that. That's how fast that machine cut these out. And you can use any exotic hardwood you want. So that's my review of the Ortur Laser Master 3. Links are all in the description. Take it easy.